Okay, so Representative Jayapal silenced Kari Lake on live TV. And this was what happened when a professional liar ran into a receipt, a literal paper trail. Lake tried to deny her own quotes, her own praise for dictators, and Jayapal she was ready. She had the dates, she had the quotes, and she absolutely buried her with. She thought she could stroll into the House Foreign Affairs Committee and play the same old games, the deflection, the whataboutism, the smug indifference to reality. She was sitting there, ostensibly as a public servant, someone tasked with promoting American values abroad, and she thought the rules of logic simply didn't apply to her. But she ran into a buzzsaw. She expected a Fox News soft toss. Instead, she faced a federal inquiry, and for the first time in a long time, the fog of disinformation was pierced by the sharp edge of actual evidence. Let's watch this congressional hearing held before the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and I'll give you my take at the end.
Ms. Jayapal from Washington for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here, Ms. Lake. The U.S. Agency for Global Media is tasked with providing unbiased news worldwide to over 427 million listeners, many of whom live in countries without freedom of press or freedom of the speech. And it is your job to promote the American ideals of freedom and democracy. So I wanted to start just by confirming, do you support democracy or authoritarianism?
I think that's pretty obvious. I support freedom and democracy.
Democracy. Great. Would you agree that accepting the results of a fair and free election are critical to a functioning democracy?
Would you agree that standing up and cheering for a cancer survivor would have been the nice thing to do?
Ms. Lake, this is my time.
Okay.
Would you accept that accepting the results of a free and fair election are critical to a functioning democracy? It's a yes or no question. Do you think it's essential for democracy to have a free and fair election?
We need free and fair elections.
Free and fair elections, great, thank you so much. And yet, you have, to this day, refused to acknowledge that President Trump lost the 2020 election, something that even members of President Trump's own Justice Department have admitted and multiple lawsuits have shown. And we heard my colleague from Arizona talk about what happened in Arizona. So it concerns me that you are now tasked with this responsibility of ensuring democracy around the world when you won't even accept a free and fair election. I'm also concerned by your ability to promote the American ideals of freedom and democracy, given your record defending and praising dictators. Let's look at Hungary. You previously stated that Hungary is, quote, doing it right, and that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán was, quote, the greatest in America, greatest in caps, and, quote, and equal to President Trump. Do you stand by those statements?
I think that Viktor Orbán has done a very good job at protecting his people and protecting the Hungarian culture.
And so,
I think
Ms. Lake,
if you ask people in Europe, other parts of Europe,
the question here is very simple.
They would be wishing that their leaders stood up for their people.
Is Viktor Orbán the greatest in Europe? Yes or no?
I think he's done the best job in Europe, yes.
Okay, and so even Secretary Rubio acknowledged in a 2019 letter that under Orbán, Hungary took a downward democratic trajectory, and yet you insist that Hungary is doing it right. I want to cover some of the policies that Mr. Orbán is responsible for. Would you consider banning LGBTQ pride parades like Viktor Orbán has done in Hungary as doing it right, recognizing that pride parades are protected under the First Amendment?
What does this have to do with the U.S. Agency for Global Media?
I'm asking you whether you support the policies of dictators and authoritarians or whether you support democracy. You have said that Viktor Orbán is the greatest in Europe. So do you think that Viktor Orbán is doing it right when he bans pride parades?
I think Viktor Orbán has put the people of his country first.
So the answer is yes, you think it's appropriate that he's banning pride parades and using facial recognition technology to actually profile people that go to those parades? How about the fact that Orbán and his party control 80% of Hungary's media market?
Are we here talking about Hungary?
Yes, we are, because guess what? Your agency actually is responsible for other countries
Hungary
and
is
unbiased
an ally.
news.
Can I remind you that Hungary is an ally of America?
Oh, and so you think that it's okay that Viktor Orbán, the greatest in Europe, according to you, controls 80% of Hungary's media market? Is that level, free, and fair reporting?
I don't. You obviously don't like our ally Hungary. I think that
I'm asking you if you
and the
think
people of
that
Hungary
it's
will decide.
appropriate. Ms. Lake, it is my time. I'm asking you if it is appropriate that a country, Viktor Orbán's government controls 80% of Hungary's media market. It's just a yes or a no. Do you think that's okay? Think he's the greatest of all time?
I don't have an opinion on what Viktor Orbán is doing in Hungary.
It's not up for debate. It's a fact that has been
first.
documented by numerous organizations.
By who?
Now,
Can you
not
tell me
only
where
have
that
you
fact come
supported,
from?
not only
Where
have
did
you
that
supported.
fact come
Excuse
from,
me, Ms. Lake.
Representative?
I'm sorry to remind you, you are not a governor. You're not even a candidate for governor. You're here, and this is my time. Not only have you supported dictators that have supported policies that erode democracy, you also spread claims promoted by Russian state media that the Pentagon was funding bioweapon labs in Ukraine. These claims have been proven resoundingly false, even by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Do you still stand by that prior statement, Ms. Lake?
I know that many members of Congress care more about funding
Ukraine. Do you
Ukraine
stand by that statement, which is clearly a lie?
I know that
you
voted.
are responsible for an agency that is supposed to promote truth, and yet, over and over again, you are promoting dictators and authoritarians and lies. So I am asking you if you stand by the statement that you made that was promoted by Russian state media that the Pentagon was funding bioweapon labs in Ukraine. Proven false by Marco Rubio. Do you stand by that statement?
I understand you're trying to get a fundraising video here.
Okay,
So
well, you clearly don't understand that you are actually here before Congress. Mr. Chairman, I just want to say
you had
that
more than enough time. I gave you a few extra seconds, and your time has expired.
Unfortunately,
and I now recognize Representative
Ms. Lake
Davidson.
is not responding to the questions.
Can I have just 1 second to respond? Because who is going to be speaking next?
Representative Davidson is next.
Oh, may I have just 1 second to respond to that? Obviously, from some of the questions we're hearing from the Democrats, they care more about a lot of other countries than America. And we've seen
It was breathtaking to watch. I mean, look back at the very first question. It was a layup, a total softball. Do you support democracy or authoritarianism? How did she fumble that? How did she struggle with that? But she did. She gave this weird, evasive non-answer about freedom, completely ignoring the authoritarianism part because she knew deep down, she knew she couldn't disavow it because she loved it. The hesitation told you everything you needed to know. And then, oh my God, the deflection, the cancer survivor line, what? What even was that? It was such a cheap, transparent attempt to change the subject. It was insulting. She was being asked about the fundamental bedrock of our republic, free and fair elections, and she tried to pivot to some grievance politics nonsense. It was pathetic. It showed you she had absolutely zero defense for her own record. She couldn't answer the question because the honest answer would have disqualified her from public life. But then came the moment that I think we had all been waiting for, the "you are not a governor" moment. I nearly stood up and cheered. Finally, someone looked her in the eye and pierced the delusion. You could see it land, too. You could see the glint in her eye shift. Because for years, she had been allowed to cosplay as a leader, to pretend she had this mandate that doesn't exist. And in one sentence, one brutal, factual sentence, the fantasy was shattered. You are a witness. You are here to answer. Sit down. And we have to remember the Hungary stuff. I mean, this remains terrifying. We are talking about something far more dangerous than political banter. This is national policy. She was praising a regime that bans pride parades, that uses facial recognition on citizens. She called the guy the greatest. It makes your skin crawl. She was supposed to be representing American freedom, and she was fangirling over a European autocrat who bragged about ending liberal democracy. And when she was pressed on it, when she was asked if banning free speech was doing it right, she choked. She literally choked. I'm not here to discuss Viktor Orbán. Yes, you were. You brought him up. You called him the greatest. It is the hypocrisy that still gets me. The staggering hypocrisy. She talked about unbiased news while sitting there weighed down by her own history of spreading Russian propaganda. I mean, the biolabs lie, the Marco Rubio fact check, it was right there in black and white, and she still wouldn't own it. She still tried to spin it into some attack on Ukraine funding. It was a masterclass in gaslighting. But here is the thing. The gaslighting didn't work. Not that time. And that is what was so satisfying. Usually, they get away with it. Usually, they talk over the questioner, they clip it for social media, and they declare victory. But there, she looked small. She looked cornered. When you stripped away the camera filters and the adoring crowds, when it was just the facts on the table, the MAGA magic evaporated. And notice how she ended it? You care more about other countries. The retreat, the classic retreat to nationalism when you have lost the intellectual argument. She had no answer for the lies. She had no answer for the dictator worship. She had no answer for the election denial. So she threw a tantrum. That was cowardice. That was weakness masquerading as toughness. We need to see more of this. We need more people who are willing to cut the mic, to demand a yes or no, and to refuse to let these people rewrite history in real time. Because if we let them normalize this love affair with autocracy, we are going to lose everything. We have to keep shining a light on hearings like this because the mainstream media often lets these moments slide by. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We are going to track every single one of these appointees and make sure the truth is on the record. I will see you next time.